Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to my channel. In this video I'll show you the making of a very beautiful kids frock using leftover fabric pieces, and these are cotton pieces I have and I'll use them to make the frock. And apart from this, I'll use this net fabric. It's just one strip and I'll use it to make the sleeves. And so there are different pieces of fabric which I have. These are leftover pieces and I'll use them. This is chiffon fabric and it's a piece of a stoller. I'm not using that stoller now, so I'll use it to make this dress, but you can also use a net fabric instead of chiffon fabric as well. Apart from the fabric pieces, we'll use a lace for this dress, and I have this piece of fabric. I'll trim it to make lace, right? So you can also use matching lace for the dress. And apart from that, we'll use lining and a very small amount of can as well. So let's get started. So these are two pieces of lining fabric. They're two pieces for front and back, and it's equal to the width of the lining fabric. It is almost 30 inches wide. Yes, it's 30 inches wide, and the length is 13 inches. It is 1 inch less than the total length of the skirt we want. And on the lining fabric, we'll attach can, and it is only 8 inches long, and I just cut one strip of can fabric and cut into two halves for front and back, right? And we won't pleat it down, but we'll attach it in the end when the rest of our skirt would be ready, because it would be easy to handle the skirt if we'll attach the can at the end, because we're not attaching it to the waistline, right? We'll attach it 3 to 4 inches down the waistline. That's why we'll attach it in the end, so it will be easier, right? Now we'll join these two pieces of lining fabric and hem the bottom. So I've attached them and the bottom is hemmed, as you can see. Now we'll pleat it from the waistline down to the waist measurement. So we'll simply pleat it and bring it to the waist measurement. Our waist measurement is 22 inches, so I've pleated it down to 24 inches including seam allowance, right? Now we'll take two pieces of this chiffon fabric. One of the piece is longer than the other. One is 14 inches long and the width is equal to the width of the fabric. It is 60 or 58 inches wide fabric, right? And the other piece is 11 inches long almost. So one strip would be smaller than the other, right? Because there will be two layers of skirt, one longer and one shorter. So there should be a gap of 3 to 4 inches in both the layers, and the width is equal. As I told you, it is cut from one stoller, so the width is equal and it is 58 inches wide. As you can see, it's 29 on fold, right? So it is almost 58 inches wide fabric. Now we will attach this layer of chiffon fabric on the lining we just pleated. So starting from one end, we'll pleat it down to the other end here. So I've pleated the chiffon fabric and hemmed the bottom, as you can see. This is the longer layer of chiffon fabric. It's 14 inches long. On this layer, we'll attach the shorter layer. So we'll simply attach it in the same way. We'll pleat it down, starting from one side to the other, and hem the bottom. So we'll get two layers. So I've pleated it down, as you can see, and the bottom is also hemmed. Now we'll attach lace at the bottom of these two layers. So I've trimmed the fabric into lace, as you can see. You can simply use matching lace for the dress. So we'll attach lace trims at the bottom like this. So I'll just adjust the width of the lace trims and attach it throughout the bottom of the layers. So as you can see, I first pinned the lace in place and folded the extra fabric, and now I'll simply stitch it. So the lower one is thinner than the upper lace, it's wider, and we'll simply stitch it. So as you can see, I've stitched the lace in place. The two layers are ready, and I also attached can after attaching the lace trims. I attached can 3 or 4 inches down the waistline, as you can see, and there are no pleats on the can. I simply stretched the lining fabric like this and stitched the can on it. The width of can was equal to the lining piece, right? Now the layers have been attached. We'll simply stitch the side seam So fold the layers like this and stitch the side. So I've stitched the sides, as you can see. Turn the right side out. Now we'll attach panels of the main fabric on the right side of this skirt. So we'll get the panels ready. So this is the main fabric and I'll cut panels out of this fabric. So we'll fold the fabric like this. Now we'll cut the panel on the folded fabric. First of all, we need to know the width of the fabric at the top. Our waist is 22 inches and we'll attach a panel at the center front that would be 4 inches wide. So we'll exclude 4 inches from our total waist, so we get 18 inches. The center front panel would be of this fabric, right? We'll cut it at the end. So excluding 4 inches from 22, we get 18. So we need 18 inches wide panels from this fabric. The center front panel would be of this fabric. 2 panels will be on the right side, 2 on the left side. So we need 4 panels of this fabric for the front part and 5 panels for the back part. So in total we need 9 panels of this fabric, and 9 into 2 is 18. It means each panel should be 2 inches wide at the top. So it should be 2 inches wide, including 1 inch seam allowance. We need 3 inch wide panel at the top, and on fold it is 1.5. So we will mark at 1.5 inches because the fabric is folded. Now for the length of the panel, we'll mark at 9 inches because we need 9 inches long panels. So I'm marking at 9 inches. For the bottom width, we need 5 inches wide panel, and including seam allowance, we need 6 inches, and on fold it is 3 inch. So we'll mark at 3 inches for the bottom width. Now we'll simply join these 2 points like this. And cut our first panel at these points. So this is our first panel. We'll take this panel as pattern to cut all the other panels. So this is the fabric we have. Place the panel on one side and cut the other panel in the same shape. Now flip this pattern panel like this and cut the other panel. Flip again to cut the other panel. So in the same way, we'll cut all the panels, and in this way no fabric will be wasted. Flip it again. So keeping this as pattern, we'll cut all the other 8 panels. So I've cut all the 9 panels, as you can see. Now we'll make a shape at the bottom of these panels. So we'll mark at 1.5 inches from the bottom on both sides, here and here, and cut these 2 points in a round shape like this. So we have cut the bottom in a round shape. See, now we'll join all these panels together, match the right sides together and stitch at the side, and keep on adding panels one by one. So we have stitched all the panels together. 5 panels will be for the back part and 4 for the front part. And now it's time to cut the center front panel. So we'll take this fabric and we'll cut the panel in the same way, but the measurement would be different. So we need actually we need 4 inches wide panel, but I'll cut at 3.5 because so it may not exceed the total waist measurement, right? And including seam allowance, it's 4.5, and half of 4.5 is 2.25. So we'll mark at 2.25 for the top width. So it's 2.25 including seam allowance. Now for the length of the panel, it's 9 inches as we did for all the other panels. And now we'll mark for the bottom width. We need 6 inches wide at the bottom. Including seam allowance, it's 7 inches, and on fold it's 3.5. So we'll mark at 3.5 at the bottom. Now we'll join these 2 points and cut here. So this will be our center front panel. We'll give a shape at the bottom. So we'll mark at 1.5 inches at the corner here and cut it in a round shape like this. So this is our center front panel. We'll attach it to all other panels. So I've attached the center front panel in place. This is the shape of the bottom. It's looking very nice. Now it's time to hem the bottom, and for hemming this curved bottom we need bias binding. So I've made these bias strips. You can use any fabric, lining fabric or a matching color fabric, whatever you have. Now we'll fold it like this and stitch it on the right side at the bottom of the skirt. So I'll show you on machine. So we'll place the bias binding below the skirt, but on the right side. The wrong side of the skirt is facing us, right? And while attaching the bias binding, do not stretch the bias binding or the skirt fabric. In this way it will be attached very easily, otherwise the bottom will lose its shape and it will be very difficult to fold the bias binding afterwards, right? So simply insert the needle in the fabric, lift up the presser foot and move the skirt in its shape, because the bottom is curved, right? So take your time to attach the bias binding, but do not stretch. So I'm moving the skirt, as you can see, in its shape. So attach the bias binding throughout the bottom of the skirt in the same way. It's very important to keep in mind that we are not stretching the bias binding or the skirt. So I've attached the bias binding on the right side, as you can see, it's on the right side. Now we'll give a few notches at the curved parts. So the bias binding is not stretched, right? So it is in the same shape as the skirt. So we'll give a few notches, and now we'll turn the bias binding on the wrong side. So now it will be very easy bias binding on the right side. So press it very nicely and then I'll hand stitch it. You can also stitch it on machine, but I'll hand stitch it, so it's optional. So I folded it, pressed it very nicely and then hand stitched it, right? So that you can see the shape of the bottom. And now this part is ready. We'll attach it to the underskirt. So we'll simply attach this part on the right side of the lower part we got ready first. So join at the waistline and stitch here. So I've stitched both the skirt parts at the waistline, as you can see, and I made a 3-4 inch long slit at the center back for the zip to go in. And now we'll get the bodice ready and attach it to the skirt. For the bodice, I took 10 inch long and 15 inches wide fabric. This is for the back part. It is 16 inches wide because we need 1 inch extra fabric at the center back. And for the front part, I took 3 pieces of fabric. First of all, you need to know the width of the center piece. It should be exactly equal to the center front panel. It is 3.5 inches when ready. So including seam allowance, we need 4.5 inches wide piece and the length is 10 inches. So excluding its width from the total width of the front bodies, we need almost 6.5 inches wide pieces at the sides, including seam allowance. So I cut 6.5 inches pieces. Join all these together, and when ready it should be 15 inches wide. So it is 15 inches wide. Now fold the front bodies. The center part should be exactly in the center. Place it on the back part, and the extra fabric should be at the center back here. Now we'll mark for half of the shoulder first. Half of shoulder is 5.5 in my measurement, so I'll mark at 5.5 inches. From this point, mark for the armhole. We mark half of armhole round, so I marked at 6 inches. Now at this point we'll mark for the chest. We mark 1/4 of the chest, so I'm marking at 6 inches. For the waist, I marked at 5.5 inches. At 1 inch we'll mark for the cutting. From the cutting mark, make a shape for back armhole first and the front armhole, like this. Now we'll mark for the neckline width at 2.5 inches and for the depth 2.5 inches as well. Join these 2 points in a round shape, like this. Now we'll cut for the neckline and the back armhole first. Separate the back part and cut for the front armhole. So we have cut the bodies. Now we'll finish the neckline. So we'll attach a strip of fabric on the right side of the neckline, at the front and the back as well, and we'll attach a strip at the center back and make 2 stitch lines there. So I've attached a strip of fabric at the neckline and for the center back at the neckline and the center as well, and I made 2 stitch lines, as you can see. Now we'll cut from the center after making the stitch lines. Now we'll fold this strip on the wrong side, and you can hand stitch it or stitch it on machine. I hand stitched it, it's optional. So I finished the neckline and the center back. Now join the right sides together and stitch the shoulders. Shoulders are done. Now we'll attach the sleeves. For the sleeves, I took this piece of net fabric. It's just a strip of fabric. Fold it twice. It's for both the sleeves. And it is almost 6 inches long. Now we'll make a shape for the armhole, keeping it straight at the start and then make a curve, because we'll gather the extra fabric at the shoulder. Mark for the center at the top and the bottom as well. Now hem the bottom. I'll picot it first and then gather it. So we need 7 inches wide bottom. Including seam allowance, it's 9 inches. So we'll gather it down to 9 inches. So I've gathered it on machine down to 9 inches. And we'll attach the sleeves to the armhole. So for before attaching the sleeves, I got armhole finished as well, in the same way as we did the neckline. Now place the center part of the sleeve under the shoulder, match the ends together and gather all the fabric at the shoulder. We'll top stitch it. So I've top stitched the sleeves. It's the wrong part, this is the right part, and all the fabric is gathered at the shoulder. Now we'll simply join the right sides together and stitch the side seams. So the sides are done. Now our bodice is ready. We'll attach it to the skirt first and then attach the zip. So this is the skirt we have. Join the opening of the zip. The right sides are facing each other. Pin in place. Join the other end here. And stitch at the waistline. But make sure that the center panel is matching the center part of the bodice. So it should exactly align, and stitch the rest of the waist. So I've attached the skirt to the bodice. Now we'll attach the zip. We'll simply place the zip under this opening and top stitch it. And after attaching the zip, we'll attach a lace at this center joint here on both sides. So for this, I'm using the lace trims as we did for the skirt part. So this is the lace trim I have. I'll fold this extra piece and place it here and top stitch. Do the same for the other side. So we'll simply top stitch it, but while stitching the lace trims, make sure that you stitch up to this point and then attach the lace only to the panel part, the upper skirt only. So fold the skirt like this and top stitch here. So I've stitched the lace and the lace is attached only to the top part of the skirt and not the lower layers, right? Now we'll attach 3 bows at the center. So I've made 2 bows ready, as you can see. For this, we'll take this strip of fabric. It's 5 inches long and 8 inches wide. So it's a rectangle piece. Fold it and stitch here. So I've stitched at one side, turn the right side out. This stitch line should be at the center like this, and join the sides. Insert one end into the other like this and stitch it here. Stitch them together. So I've stitched it. Now this will be the center back. Pleat from the center and wrap a strip of fabric. You can hand stitch it or use the glue gun. I'll use the glue gun to fix it, and then attach to the skirt. So simply we'll attach the bows in place here and the skirt is ready. So this is the final look of the dress. It's looking very nice. So we used simply leftover fabric pieces which were useless, but we turned it into a very beautiful dress. So you can use leftover fabric pieces and make dresses like this. It's very nice. If you like the video, thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed my channel, make sure to subscribe and press the bell icon. And thank you so much for watching, and Allah Hafiz till the next video.